Autonomy is systematically dismantled when high-demand groups isolate members, dictate daily routines, and restrict access to outside perspectives. This process is not random. It follows predictable patterns of psychological manipulation designed to replace independent identity with group identity. The BITE model, developed by Steven Hassan, provides a precise framework for analyzing these patterns, detailing how authoritarian structures maintain absolute power over individuals. BITE stands for behavior, information, thought, and emotional control, representing four interconnected pillars of undue influence. Identifying these mechanisms allows us to analyze coercive environments, whether they manifest in small fringe groups or large established institutions. The model shifts the focus from theological or doctrinal disputes to observable psychological manipulation tactics used to enforce conformity and obedience. Recognizing these four components is the first step in understanding how belief systems become instruments of total control. Behavior control dictates every aspect of a member's life, often extending to diet, clothing, sexual activity, and sleep patterns. The group enforces rigid rules regarding who members can associate with, often demanding separation from family and non-believers, a process known as boundary maintenance. Financial exploitation is common, requiring members to donate significant time or assets, ensuring economic dependency on the group structure. Punishments for non-compliance range from public shaming to complete shunning, reinforcing the fear of external life and social isolation. The group often mandates specific living arrangements or communal housing, eliminating personal time and private space. This constant engagement with group activities and ideology prevents critical reflection and reinforces the belief that the group provides the only viable path to safety or salvation. Information control involves systematically blocking access to external data that contradicts the group's narrative. This includes censoring books, news media, and the internet, labeling outside sources as corrupt, biased, or spiritually dangerous. The group actively promotes internal propaganda, often through specialized language or jargon that only members understand, creating an immediate in-group and out-group dynamic. Leaders demand members spy on each other and report deviations, fostering an environment of pervasive distrust and self-censorship. Crucially, information about the leader's past, finances, or internal decision-making processes is strictly hidden, maintaining an illusion of infallibility and purity. Members are taught to rationalize away any inconsistencies or contradictions they encounter, viewing doubt itself as a moral failing or a test of faith. Thought control mandates the adoption of the group's doctrine as the only truth, actively suppressing critical thinking and rational analysis. Techniques include hypnotic suggestion, repetitive chanting, and mandatory meditation focused solely on group dogma. Members are trained to use thought-stopping techniques, such as prayer, specific phrases, or visualization exercises whenever doubts or negative feelings about the group arise. The ideology often employs black and white thinking, categorizing everything as absolutely good or absolutely evil, eliminating nuance and complexity. Guilt and fear are weaponized to ensure that members police their own minds, believing that even internal dissent is punishable by spiritual or eternal consequences. The group provides all answers, rendering independent intellectual inquiry unnecessary and dangerous. Emotional control manipulates the member's internal state, primarily through the systematic induction of fear and guilt. Fear of the outside world, fear of eternal damnation, and fear of abandonment by the group are constantly reinforced. Guilt is leveraged regarding past actions or insufficient devotion. The group uses love bombing initially, overwhelming new recruits with affection, only to withdraw it instantly upon perceived disobedience. This creates an unstable emotional environment where the member constantly seeks approval. The group defines what emotions are acceptable, often pathologizing anger, sadness, or skepticism as signs of spiritual weakness or demonic influence. The only acceptable emotional state is one of gratitude and devotion toward the leader and the organization.
While BITE applies universally, religious contexts provide powerful pre-existing structures for control. The concept of divine authority immediately bypasses rational scrutiny, placing the leader or doctrine beyond criticism. Eternal consequences, such as hell or reincarnation cycles, serve as the ultimate behavior control mechanism, far exceeding temporal legal threats. Information control is often masked as preserving sacred texts or tradition, making historical or scientific inquiry sacrilegious. Thought control is institutionalized through mandatory rituals and confessionals, ensuring internal compliance. The promise of exclusive salvation creates intense emotional dependency, making separation from the group equivalent to spiritual death and ensuring lifelong adherence. The BITE model operates on a spectrum. Not every high-demand group exhibits all four components equally or intensely. Many mainstream religious organizations utilize mild forms of information control, such as discouraging critical historical analysis, or emotional control, like leveraging guilt during fundraising. The key distinction lies in the degree of coercion and the systematic nature of the control. When all four elements are used aggressively and simultaneously, the environment becomes destructive, leading to severe psychological harm and the complete loss of individual agency. Recognizing the spectrum prevents dismissing subtle forms of manipulation simply because the group appears socially acceptable or integrated into society. Surviving a high-control environment results in complex trauma, often termed religious trauma syndrome. Victims frequently experience identity confusion, struggling to differentiate their authentic self from the persona enforced by the group. Decision-making capacity is severely impaired because the individual was trained to outsource all judgment to the authority structure. Cognitive dissonance, the mental stress of holding conflicting beliefs, persists long after leaving, requiring extensive therapeutic intervention. Rebuilding critical thinking skills and emotional regulation is essential for recovery, demanding a conscious effort to reestablish personal boundaries and autonomy that were systematically eroded during indoctrination. Deconstructing BITE requires reversing the control mechanisms through deliberate action. To counter behavior control, individuals must establish independent routines and reconnect with non-group contacts without permission. Information control is broken by actively seeking diverse, verifiable sources and engaging in historical and scientific literacy, specifically targeting previously forbidden topics. Thought control is dismantled by practicing metacognition, analyzing the origin of one's thoughts, and deliberately allowing doubt without self-punishment. Emotional control is neutralized by validating personal feelings and understanding that fear and guilt were tools of manipulation, not indicators of spiritual truth. Skepticism becomes the primary defense mechanism against future manipulation. The ultimate defense against undue influence is rigorous applied skepticism. Critical thinking is not merely questioning beliefs, it is the systematic evaluation of evidence, source reliability, and logical consistency, regardless of the source's perceived authority. The BITE model serves as a diagnostic tool, allowing observers to quantify the level of control exerted by any organization claiming absolute truth. When an organization demands conformity across behavior, information, thought, and emotion, it is prioritizing institutional power over individual well-being. Maintaining intellectual independence requires constant vigilance against systems designed to exploit human needs for certainty and belonging, ensuring personal sovereignty remains intact.